We are willing to share you the truth that no one else wants to tell. I'm William Johns. This is Sharon Johns. We welcome you to our show tonight, and we're going to be talking about two completely opposite men. We're going to be talking about Medgar Evers, who was a true man, a strong man. He had courage, he had integrity, and he stood for what was right. And then you had Clarence Thomas. So we're going to be talking about uh, Medgar Allen first, and then we'll get on to that other one. So we welcome you to our show here where we talk about Black history and then we discuss current events that affect the Black community. We want to educate America, especially Black America, and our young Black men and women, and we want to get them informed. As we start heading toward the midterms in November, we want you to know what you're voting for when you go into that voting booth. So we're going to start off with Mr. Medgar Evers, and here's my wife, Sharr, to give us the information.
Welcome, everybody. As my husband Will already put out the invitation, we are so glad that you are here to join us tonight at In the Face of Truth platform. And like we said, we are here to give you the truth, amen, when it comes to our Black history icons and legends and those that stood up for our freedoms, those that stood up for our civil rights and liberties in this country of America. And so we want you to join in. We want you to listen. We want you to learn. We want you to teach these things to your children. As you know, they are already, this administration and this president has already tried to demolish our Black history in schools and in colleges and universities all over this country. And so therefore, we want to keep our memories and memoirs alive when it comes to our Black history. Amen. Our Black history leaders and those that fought on our behalf, amen, like I said before, for our freedoms and our liberties. And so tonight we're going to talk about Medgar Evers. And so we want to ask you to come to the front, come to the table. Come on to the table and let us learn together. Let us, come up with ideas together. Let's work together to fight back against what is happening across this nation when it comes to African American people, when it comes to Black people. And so we want to welcome you to this show. So join in with us, okay? You can leave comments and messages, but we're going to ask that you be polite, and if you are a troll, we will delete you off of this platform, okay? So welcome everybody, and let's be nice as you put your comments up. So talking about Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers was born on July the 2nd, 1925 in Decatur. He grew up in the deeply segregated South during the era of Jim Crow laws. His life early shaped the courage and determination he later became known for, okay? Early life in Mississippi for Medgar Evers. I get his name twisted back and forth, okay? So his early life in Mississippi, he was raised in a farming family alongside several siblings as a Black child in Mississippi during the 1920s and 30s. And he lived under strict racial segregation laws, where Black schools received fewer resources. Black citizens faced violence and intimidation. Also, he dealt with the voting rights were heavily suppressed, as they're trying to do today with this administration. As you can see, they are pushing the gerrymandering. They had laws passed just a couple of days ago in regards to, I believe it was Louisiana. And so now they are trying to steal votes. So they have more votes when it comes to the midterms in November and also the election in 2028. Okay. And so we want to be informed about these things, and we want to get together and we need to brainstorm what we're going to do to be able to get our vote in and make our votes count. Black citizens also faced violence and intimidation. Voting rights were heavily suppressed. Lynchings and racial terror were common realities. One story that stayed with Medgar Evers, okay, from his childhood for life, was when he passed the site where a Black man had been lynched. Pieces of the man's clothing reportedly remained hanging on a fence for years as a warning to black residents. Experiences like this deeply affected Evers' understanding of racism and fear in the South. His military service. During World War II, Medgar Evers served in the U.S. Army in a segregated unit. He fought in Europe and participated in the Normandy invasion after D-Day. And as we know, a lot of our black men back during the time of slavery end up joining the army or the military because they were told that they would get their freedoms. We talked about this before I think it was the Buffalo Soldiers and other soldiers that had joined to fight in the army for the United States of America because they were made promises to them that they would get their freedom when they returned home. But that was not the case. Like many black veterans, Medgar Evers returned home expecting greater respect and freedom after serving his country. But instead, he encountered the same racism he left behind. One defining moment came in 1946 when Evers attempted to vote in Mississippi. Armed white men reportedly blocked black veterans from voting. That experience helped push him toward activism, okay? So his education and family. After the war, Medgar Evers attended Elkhorn A&M College, now Elkhorn State University. There he studied business administration, go Edgar, played sports, joined debate activities, and met Myrlie Evers Williams. The two married in 1951 and had children together. Myrlie became an important civil rights activist in her own right and later chaired the NAACP. We want to welcome tonight Russell Dixon. He said, do you know about the Red Ball Express? We're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about Medgar Evers, okay? But thank you for joining us. All right, so entry into the civil rights work. In the early 1950s, Evers became increasingly active in challenging segregation. One major turning point came after the Supreme Court decision in the Brown versus Board of Education, which ruling declared school segregation unconstitutional. Around this same time, Evers attempted to apply to the segregated law school at the University of Mississippi as a part of a strategy to challenge segregation laws. Soon afterward, he became the NAACP's first Mississippi field secretary. This was extremely dangerous work in Mississippi during the 1950s, okay? And so I'm going to stop there and see if Will has anything that he wants to add to what we've already talked about when it comes to Medgar Evers. One thing I do love about him is that, he took on the responsibility of standing up and fighting for voting rights and standing up and fighting for civil rights for black people in this country. Now, I want you to know, too, that while we're talking about Medgar Evers and the many other black American icons and legends that fought for our liberties and our freedoms, concerning the civil rights and whatnot have you, we must realize in today's society that the fight has never ended. Okay, this is nothing new that we're seeing today with this administration, with this president, and those behind him, Stephen Miller, and I call their names out because we need to expose the devil for who he is and the people that he's using to come against African American people. And they're doing this in the name of Christianity, okay? It is not Christianity. It is white nationalism, and we must speak and tell what it is. I love Paul Tulin. He said, hi, I'm from Belfast, Ireland, and the British tried to steal our country and tried to steal our language. And have you ever heard of Bloody Sunday? The Army killed 13 civil rights movement. Hi, Paul. Welcome to our program. And yes, we have heard of Bloody Sunday. Okay. And so that too was a part of what happened because of our black people standing up here in America back in the 60s. Back in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, and how they stood up and, against the government system and the system here in America to try to fight for our freedoms and our rights. And here we are today in the year of 2025, the year of our Lord, and we are back 2026, and we are back at trying to fight for our civil rights and our right to vote and our freedoms here in America, okay? Hard top least guy said you are mistaken. I can't see all
Hard to
of.
please, guys. So I don't know what we're mistaken about.
Okay, if you can verify what we are mistaken about, you're more than welcome to do that. Hard to please guy, and we just want to welcome you to the program. And we've already asked that you be nice with your comments, or we will have to delete you off of this platform. Okay, but you are welcome here to put your comments up as long as they're nice. But anyway, yes. So like I said, here we're here in 2026, and we're back at square one. We're trying to fight for our liberty and our civil rights to not be removed. Okay, which is what the Republican Party is already trying to do. All righty.
So what you said about Medgar Evers, it's a shame that he was able to fight for his country. He went in to the army and put his life on the line in that invasion of
Yes.
Normandy. For him to storm them beaches and be able to survive, nothing but the Lord. And to be able to do that and then have to come home and face more danger from his own country than he did from the enemy.
Yes.
And it's a shame, but he served his country and he helped to free the world from Nazism, fascism. And yet from what I understand, in World War I and World War II, the black soldiers were treated with more respect over in Europe than they were in the U.S., especially in France. So much so that they were shipped out of France. They were, I believe this was in World War I, where they were in France, and the white commanders and the officers said, we got to get them out of here because they're treating them like human beings.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, and he came home and to face what he had to face after he fought for this country. And a lot of us are doing that today. That's why a lot of men like Farrakhan is saying that black men shouldn't be in the army, shouldn't be in the military fighting wars that are not theirs because they don't get the respect that they deserve. And a lot of times, if it wasn't for the black soldiers, we looked at the Tuskegee Airmen, we look at the men in the Civil War, we look at the black soldiers in the Revolutionary War. If it wasn't, not only did the black African Americans build this country, they helped save this country through their fighting in the military. All right.
Yes. Okay, so hi, Paul Tulin, U5Y. Welcome to the program tonight. We're glad to have you.
He's the same one that did before. He's talking about the Bloody Sunday was, I guess, when in Ireland.
Oh, okay. He's talking about the one in
Sunday
Ireland, not the one in
the British,
America.
and he said that the army shot dead my father and uncle and 12 friends.
Okay.
So we're sorry about that.
Yes.
But yeah, so they've experienced, anytime you have injustice anywhere, it's injustice everywhere.
Everywhere. That's
And
right,
we
Dr.
know
Martin
that
Luther
Hitler
King.
took his playbook from the slavery and the Jim Crow of America. So when you don't fight it, it's just going to spread.
Yes.
Continue.
That's very good, Will. Very good. Yes, and like my husband said, we are sorry about the army shooting dead your father and uncle and 12 friends. We're not here, like we said before, we are not here to discriminate, but we are here to bring out points to our African American people to make them alert and alarm. And we want to educate our people here in America, because a lot of people don't even realize what's going on and what's happening to the African Americans here in America right now, or the black people here in America, especially the younger generation. Okay, they don't realize that their freedoms and liberties, and just like our freedoms and liberties are being stolen right from under us, and that's wrong. It's wrong what Trump is doing. It's wrong what this administration is doing, and we condemn everything, the hate, the racism that's being pushed in this country right now with this administration and with this president. God is not happy about it, and neither are we. We first love the Lord, and so that's why we want to bring this program to the light. We must uncover what the enemy is doing, okay? And so that people will be made aware, not just black people, but people all over this world. So thank y'all for joining us tonight. So we're going to move on. We're still talking about Medgar Evers, okay? It says, what made his work so dangerous? It says, Evers worked in one of the most violently racist states in America at the time. He investigated murders of black citizens, beatings and intimidation, economic retaliation against activists, police abuses. He also helped organize boycotts and voter registration drives. And one of the most important cases he investigated was the 1955 murder of Emmett Till. The brutal killing of Till became a national symbol of racial injustice, and Evers helped gather evidence and support witnesses despite serious danger to himself. Now, we all remember the story of Emmett Till, and maybe me and my husband will talk about that at a later date, okay? The constant threats that came against Medgar Evers, because he was so visible, Evers became a target of white supremacist groups. His home was firebombed. He received constant death threats. He often had to teach his children emergency safety drills in case of attacks. Even under threat, he continued speaking publicly and organizing throughout Mississippi. Okay? Mm-hmm. So just because, he was being threatened, just because his life was being put on the line, and the white supremacists were coming after him for standing up for civil rights and our freedoms and liberty, and also the information that he was finding about, the police abuse, about the hangings and lynchings in Mississippi, which was one of the worst, like they said, parts of the country for him to have to do what he needed to do. He still did it regardless. He didn't back down. He didn't become fearful. He didn't get afraid and go coward and run. But he still stood up, even though it cost him. Okay? So the assassination of Medgar Evers. On June 12, 1963, shortly after returning home from an NAACP meeting in Jackson, Mississippi, Evers was shot in the back in his driveway. His assassination happened only hours after President John F. Kennedy gave a nationally televised speech supporting civil rights. The man who killed Evers was a white supremacist by the name of Byron De La Beckwith, who avoided conviction for decades because all white juries deadlocked. He was finally convicted in 1994, okay? So he was killed, he was murdered because of his stance for civil rights and equality, okay? And freedoms and liberty for black people here in America. And not only him, but I said before when we first started, Will, that why is it when black people want to stand up for their rights? Why is it when we want to speak out against the injustices here in America that our black people end up losing their lives because we speak out and we tell the truth about what's going on and what's happening, okay? And so we have white supremacist people, just like they did back during Medgar Evers' times, Dr. Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, and the different ones, that were either persecuted or killed because they spoke out for truth, because they spoke out for justice, because they spoke out for righteousness, okay? Because they spoke out for equality, okay? We have freedoms in this country. The freedom of speech is one of them. The right to a peaceful protest is another one. We can use our freedoms here in America because it's for all Americans. It's not for a certain group that thinks they're better than everybody else. It's not for a certain group that's trying to suppress the votes of the black people, or that's trying to keep other people under their rule and under their thumb. The freedoms that we have here in the Constitution is for every American. And we have a right to stand up and speak out. We have a right to protest, okay? And when I say protest, we have a right to a peaceful protest, not to go out here and act a fool, tear up stuff, and burn things down. We have a right to a peaceful protest to stand up for what's right in this country. You got anything to say, Will?
No, I agree with you on that. And Medgar Evers, he moved his family to Mississippi, even though his family was in danger. We got to remember that when these civil rights leaders, not only are they in danger, but their families are in danger too.
Yes.
And that weighs heavy on a man, but they still, with the love that they have for their wife and for their children, they still have got to stand up for what's right. And it has to be heavy. Martin Luther King talked about that, as how his family was threatened and their life was threatened, and how that weighed on him. Malcolm X, same way.
Yes.
When he got his house, he had his gun there because of the threat. So it's not just the person, but it's the family that is affected. And the family has got to be able to stand behind them also and realize what the threat is too.
That's right.
So this is like she said, when we want to stand up, he was just standing up for what was right.
Yes, amen.
But this was a history that has gone way back to slavery, especially in the South. We know that the mindset and the demonic spirit that they had and the things that they did.
Yes, very good, Will. Thank you. Paul
No,
Tulin
go ahead.
said, have you ever heard of the hunger strikers in the Maze prison? Some of them were good friends just for our rights. They stood for their rights. Okay, he said we got jail trial without a jury. Okay, you remember that? Okay, I haven't heard of the different hunger strikes. I don't know what country you're from, Tulin, or where that happened in, but I did hear a little bit of something about those hunger strikes. Okay, I will have to do some research on that, and thank you for enlightening us to the hunger strikes. All right, we appreciate that. So why Medgar Evers matters today? Evers represented a generation of Black Americans who risked everything to challenge segregation before the civil rights movement gained widespread national support. His work helped pave the way for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, of which we know that Trump and the administration here in America did they gut it, or are they still trying to gut it? Okay, they gutted the Civil Rights Act of 1964, of which our forefathers and ancestors fought, bled, and died for, okay, to have enacted here in America. The Voting Rights of 1965, he also fought for to expand Black politician participation in the South, of which now they're trying to get rid of all the Black politicians. Okay, I was looking at a video today on YouTube, and they were describing the different ones in the South that they're trying to get out, out of politics. Okay, because they want to run the whole shenanigans of the White House, so they don't want Blacks to be a part of it. It says the Voting Rights Act of 1965, he also expanded Black politician participation in the South, and Medgar Evers' story remains important because it shows the risk civil rights activists face, how local organizing shaped national change, the connection between military service, citizenship, and civil rights, the personal costs many families paid, and the struggle for equality. And we know when you read back in history and you read the different stories and what happened to a lot of our Black people, it cost them something. Yeah, those that marched in Selma, Montgomery, those that stood, Rosa Parks, when she was asked to move to the back of the bus, she was jailed for that because she didn't move. We had many ones that, they let the dogs out on, and I remind us of that because it's a part of our history. Okay, when they stood up in the peaceful protest with Dr. Martin Luther King, they put water holes on our people. Okay, a lot of them were beaten. Some of our people were hung back in the day and killed for standing up for what was right, standing up for what was ours. Okay, Medgar Evers' life and death are often used today as a lens through which people examine modern debates about democracy, civil rights, voting access, and the role of government. Different Americans interpret current events differently, but Evers' message itself was remarkably consistent. He believed citizenship meant equal protection under the law, equal access to voting, equal education opportunity, and dignity regardless of race. A central lesson from Evers' work is that civil rights are not finished achievements that automatically sustain themselves. He lived in a time when many legal rights technically existed on paper for Black Americans after the American Civil War and Reconstruction. Yet segregation, intimidation, and unequal enforcement prevented many people from fully exercising these rights or those rights. Evers argued that democracy required continual public participation, organizing, legal challenges, and accountability. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and say this, and that is that, yes, we know the midterms are coming. We know that the Republicans are trying to do everything they can to stop the Black vote here in America. We even had ones that call themselves threatening, if we go down to the polls, there's going to be trouble. We have them going after the Democratic nominees and people that are in office today, trying to silence them, trying to intimidate people. And we will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We will go to those polls and we will go in large numbers to vote in the midterms, okay? So it's time for us to stand. It's time for us to do what we have to do, okay? Civilize, okay? And go vote. Put your votes in. Black people, stand up. Stand together. Rise up and get to the polls come the midterms. Or we will lose our democracy. We will lose our rights, all of our rights that they're trying to strip us of. And I was just looking at something that's, what's his name, in Florida with the redistricting.
DeSantis?
Yes, DeSantis is now is trying to redistrict his area. Okay. And so, yes, it's time for us to stand up, y'all. No fear. No fear. We must do what we must do. All right. We want to welcome tonight that classic car guy. He said, how is my strong sister and brother doing today? Hi, welcome. We're doing good. Standing up. Yes. All right. So we're going to go on with Medgar Evers. That's who we're talking about tonight. It says, today's supporters and critics of the Trump administration, and I'm going to read this. I wasn't going to read it, but I'm going to read it to you. Often sharply disagree about whether current policies strengthen or weaken those ideas. For example, critics of some Trump era and current Republican-backed policies argue that restrictions on voting methods can disproportionately affect minority voters. Efforts to reduce diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which is what you know, when he got in office, that's the first thing he went after was the DEI. This is what they're using under the pretense of DEI. He's gone in, he's gutted jobs for African Americans. He's also gutted jobs for the people, a lot of the MAGA people that voted for him. But mostly they gutted the jobs for Black Americans. You have over, I believe it's 300,000 Black women that lost their jobs since Trump's been in office. And then altogether you have Black men and Black women, 900,000 that's lost their jobs because of this president and his idiosyncrasies. Okay? Because of the people that's helping him to push this white nationalism, white Christianity across this country. Okay, and it's doing a lot of damage to a lot of people that need jobs to take care of their families. It's wrong what's going on. Okay, and so let's go back to what else is going on. They have restrictions on voting methods, which they say can disproportionately affect minority voters, and it is. Efforts to reduce diversity, equity, and inclusion. Programs weaken protections against discrimination. Changes to federal oversight of civil rights enforcement reduce accountability. Harsh rhetoric around race, immigration, or protest movements can deepen division. Supporters of those same policies often argue that election security measures protect public trust in voting. Government should emphasize individual merit over race-conscious programs. Federal agencies have sometimes overreached in regulating local institutions. Civil rights principles should apply equally without preferential treatment. Evers' own speeches and actions strongly emphasize several themes that continue to appear in the debates. First of all, the voting rights as power. Evers believed voting was foundational because political power shaped every other right. In Mississippi, Black citizens were often blocked from voting through intimidation, literacy tests, violence, and economic retaliation. Modern debates over voter ID laws. We have that today. This is talking about modern day. Mail-in voting, voter royal purges, district maps, polling place accesses are frequently disguised or discussed in the historical shadow of the struggles Evers fought against, okay? So these are things that we are dealing with today, okay? The voter ID laws, okay? The mail-in voting now, they're messing with that. The voter roll purge, the district maps, the polling place access. If you remember what happened to, I believe it was Ms. Jasmine Crockett down in Texas, and how the voters came out to vote, but because of them, I believe they were supposed to be there at a certain time to get their vote in, they closed the doors.
In a certain place they were supposed to be in.
Yes, in a certain place.
It.
and they changed it, and they end up not being able. I said a lot of people walked away because they locked the doors and weren't able to get in to vote. My God, it's a shame what's going on in this country. The danger of public silence. Evers reportedly urged ordinary people not to become passive in the face of injustice. One of his most quoted ideas was, "You can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea." That message is often invoked today by activists across the political spectrum who believe democratic participation matters even during periods of polarization or distrust. The role of federal government. A major issue during Evers' life was whether the federal government should intervene when states denied equal rights. During the civil rights movement, many activists believed federal action was necessary because local governments in parts of the South upheld segregation. That same tension, listen up, still exists today in debates over voting laws, education policy, policing, civil rights enforcement, and state versus federal authority. So we're still dealing with some of the same things today, y'all. Nothing's changed too much, okay? And that's because of this administration. And like I said before, this president, Donald Trump, and them pushing this Project 2025. This is something that I heard that they've been planning for over 100 years. And most of it is directed at Black people here in America. What a shame. God is going to have his way in the midst of all of this in the name of Jesus, okay? So why does Medgar Evers' story still resonate? Evers' story continues to matter because it raises enduring questions. Who has full access to democracy? How should governments protect civil rights? What happens when parts of the public lose trust in institutions? How much responsibility do ordinary citizens have to participate? People across the political spectrum may answer those questions differently, but Evers' life remains a powerful reminder that rights many Americans now consider basic were secured through sustained activism, legal battles, and in some cases, enormous personal sacrifice. That's why his story still resonates. Now I'm going to read to you things to do to protect civil rights. Black people, listen up. Come to the front. Come to the front. All blacks to the front. The things we need to do to protect our civil rights, okay? It says many Black Americans, along with people from other communities, are concerned about voting rights, equal protection, education policy, criminal justice, and broader questions about democracy and representation. Throughout American history, one of the strongest lessons from leaders like Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King Jr., and Ella Baker is that long-term change usually comes from organized, sustained civic action rather than despair or disengagement. I'm going to read that part again. Throughout American history, Black people, one of the strongest lessons from leaders like Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King Jr., and Ella Baker is that long-term change usually comes from organized, sustained civic action rather than despair or disengagement. You understand what they're saying? In other words, you got to get involved. In other words, you got to get up and get out and vote in the midterms. In other words, you got to get out and vote in the 2020, I always get it wrong. Is it 28? 28 election. Okay. If you want to see change, get involved. Do what you're supposed to do, Black people. Stand up, stand together, okay, and work together for change. Work together to keep what our ancestors fought for intact. All right? And that is our civil liberties and freedoms, our voting rights. This is all at stake right now. And we need every Black person on deck. And some of the white people that want to stand with the Black people. We had white people back then, as we said before, during this time of slavery, during the civil rights movement. All right? When Barack Obama got elected, it was not just Black people. It was people of all different races that voted for him to be in office, our first Black president. Let's work together. Okay? Don't be caught off guard by this racist, white nationalist, divisive, okay, agenda that's going forth in America right now. Come together and stand together. Stand together, for nothing else, for our democracy here in America. Okay? It says some concrete approaches that civil rights advocates often emphasize today, and I'm just going to read them. I'm not going to read about them, is to protect and expand voting participation. Young people, we need y'all to come on and get on board. Okay? A lot of the older people know what we're fighting for. They know what the fight is about. But we need to get our young people on board to stand up, to exert your rights in America. You have a right to vote. You have a right to peaceful protest. You have a right to call your representatives and tell them they need to get fire up under them and get moving before we lose every right. Okay. It says historically movements gained influence when turnout and local organization increased consistently over time, especially in school boards, city councils, prosecutors' races, and state legislators, not just presidential elections. Number 2, we need to build strong local institutions. Okay? It says during segregation, black churches, civic groups, fraternities and sororities, newspapers, and neighborhood organizations became centers of political education and economic support. The modern versions include community organizations, legal advocacy groups, independent media, mentorship programs, economic cooperatives, educational nonprofits. Leaders like Ella Baker stress that strong communities create durable movements. Number 3, no constitutional and civil rights law. If you haven't heard of the Defiant Lawyers with Pastor Corbett, what was his first name? Pastor Augustus Corbett, that comes on YouTube, and he puts out the law about the civil rights and constitutional laws. Look him up on YouTube. Okay, it's called the Defiant Lawyers. Understanding rights can help communities recognize when policies may be challenged legally or politically. Okay, so key areas people often study include the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, equal protection under the Constitution, our First Amendment right, state voting procedures. Civil rights organizations often rely on educated local citizens who can document problems and organize lawful responses. Number 4, support economic strength. Historically, economic independence has often been tied to political influence. This can involve supporting Black-owned businesses, building community investment networks, expanding financial literacy, and encouraging home ownership and entrepreneurship, creating scholarships and training programs. Leaders from Booker T. Washington to modern organizers emphasize that economic leverage can strengthen political leverage. Number 5, engage younger generations. Younger generations of people, we need you. I say ages 20 to 40, 20 to 35. We need y'all on board. Many civil rights gains were driven by young people, college students, youth organizers, young clergy, student protest groups. Teaching younger generations history, media literacy, civic engagement, public speaking, organizing skills helps movements continue across generations. Look with everything that's gone on with the education system and how they really gutted a lot of the funds for our Black children in Black communities at most schools. Parents, I'm gonna tell you now, our children are grown, but if I had to do it all over again in this day and age, my husband and I will be teaching our children at home. So you need to begin to teach your children at home about their own Black history. All right? Teach your children at home. If you can't school them at home, don't put them in the schools out here, because they're taking away what they want to take away and they're leaving what they want to leave. Okay? Number 6, form coalitions without losing identity. Historically, major civil rights victories often involve broad coalitions, labor groups, faith communities, students, immigrants, women's organizations, interracial alliances, and at the same time, many black leaders emphasize maintaining independent black political voices and institutions within those coalitions. Don't look if you're gonna stand up for something, don't forget who you are. Okay, don't lose your identity as a black person. And when you hear what my husband has to speak on, then you'll know what you'll know better. Number 7, use media and storytelling strategically. The civil rights movement gained national attention partly because activists documented injustice through newspapers, photography, television, speeches, testimony. Okay, and we're doing that good. We're using TV, we're using YouTube, social medias, okay, to get the word out there, to put the information out there, and that's very, very good. What our black people are doing, I'm proud of that. Okay, so today digital media can mobilize awareness quickly, though it also spreads misinformation quickly. So be up on your information. Don't put misinformation out there. Black people, stop following everybody. Everybody's not putting out good information. Okay? Especially we got one, I don't know if he was a basketball player, Stephen Miller, telling everybody to vote.
Yeah.
Vote for
Stephen Smith.
Yeah, Stephen Smith. I'm sorry, telling everybody to vote for Trump. Why would you vote for somebody that's taking everything away from you? Come on now. Okay, number 8, stay engaged beyond moments of crisis. One lesson from earlier generations is that movements weaken when participation only happens during national outrage. Sustained involvement often matters more than short bursts of attention. Attending local meetings, following legislation, contacting representatives, organizing consistently, supporting long-term institutions. And then from a historical perspective, civil rights history in the United States has never moved in a perfectly straight line. There have been periods of major progress followed by backlash, retrenchment, court battles, and renewed activism. Okay? And after Reconstruction came Jim Crow. After gains in the 1960s came new political and legal conflicts over enforcement and equality. Each generation has debated what freedom, equality, and citizenship should mean in practice. Figures like Medgar Evers often emphasize persistence, the idea that democratic rights survive when citizens remain organized, informed, and active over long periods of time. So what is he saying there? Change is not going to come overnight. Okay? Change only happens when you're consistent. All right? And so we're at that point in time in this 2026 year where, because we have so much on the line right now of Black American people or Black citizens, that we are at the point of losing. It's time to get up. It's not time to sit back. It's not time to, waste time. It's time to get busy doing what we need to do to stand up for our rights, to protect our rights here in America. Okay? So right now I'm going to turn to Will for a minute. No, I'm going to turn it to you because I'll do the quotes last. I got to get some water. Yeah,
we're
kind of dry.
talk about Clarence Thomas not too long, but we know that he was one of the main ones that were fighting to get the Voting Rights Act gutted. They gutted it, of course. We talked a little bit about that last week, and we talked about the Section 5, and now, of course, the decision of Section 2. And one of the main reasons was because Clarence Thomas wanted to get rid of the vote. Basically, he wants to gut the whole vote, him and San Marino, but he was the one. This case that came up last week was already heard, and he was the one that pushed for it to get reheard.
Yes.
And as a result of them rehearing it, then they came down with a decision that they came down with to get rid And what they're trying to do is get rid of a lot of the black districts so that their votes will be less important. And so, but Clarence Thomas, a black man, was the one that was advocating this, believe it or not. And always black people are trying to hurt black people.
My Lord.
So I put in here, why is he such a good? Clarence Thomas was an affirmative action student.
Yes.
So he benefited from the very program that he's gutted and was against. And so he got in on the affirmative action. He went to Yale, I believe, and Harvard. And he said when he was there, he went to Holy Cross and then Yale, and he said that he felt like, listen to this quote. He says, he felt his Yale law degree was viewed as a 15-cent sticker that people discounted because of affirmative action. Well, if he felt that way, why didn't he give it back?
Yes.
If he felt that way, why is he on the court? Go somewhere and flip some burgers at McDonald's then. See, you took advantage of it. You didn't have no problem when you took advantage of it, when it got you to be a judge, when it got you to be a lawyer, when it got you to be Supreme Justice, so that you can do all this damage to black people. You didn't have no problem with that now, but now you're using that. A lot of people allege that he has been bought off. I don't know.
Wow.
They have
Sad.
receipts of the trips that he's taken, the gifts that he's received, but yeah, I don't know. There's been alleged because of his wife that their family he's in, that they're controlling him. So I don't know, but he, like I said, he doesn't appear to be a man. Okay, because if he was a man, some of these things that he's doing, he would stand up for, especially where he came from in the Deep South.
Yes.
So it can appear that he has been brought off. Not saying he is, but it can appear. That's something that y'all are going to have to make up in your mind. But look at the decisions that he has made. He is a detriment to black people.
Yes, he is.
And it's a shame. You should never forget where you came from. Okay? He claims that the government should not interfere with race, as far as race shouldn't determine elections or the vote. Well, you're right, race shouldn't, but it has for 250 years of slavery and 100 years of Jim Crow. If the African American people were treated right by the white people, especially the white Southerners, the KKK, the white nationalists, the white supremacy groups, if they were treated right even today, then we wouldn't need that. But we need it because of them, not because of us. And so that's something that he should realize. Now they say that he had publicly acknowledged that he likely benefited from affirmative action. He later became one of the Supreme Court's strongest opponents of affirmative action because he believes that it creates stigma and violates equal protection principles. You know, it's easy to say that after you've benefited from it.
That's so true.
But now you're saying it was good enough for you, but now it's not good enough for anyone else. This man needs to be, a lot of people say he needs to be impeached. And a lot of them on our Supreme Court needs to be impeached. Their job as a court judge is to interpret the law, not to be bipartisan, not to be political. And Clarence Thomas has been political. It's obvious that he has been political, and he circumvents the law. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth. So this Clarence Thomas, like I said, they have a name for him, and I'm not going to say it.
Sambo.
But there's a Sambo. So we know what we got. So hopefully he'll be out of office soon. Hopefully he'll either retire or they'll impeach him. Okay? And we need to get people on the court, whether you're left or right. You need to get people on the court that will interpret the law and do that which is right.
That's right.
Okay? So back to
very
Sharr.
well said. And one thing that I want you to hold on to tonight, and that is the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas, even though you haven't done your job when it comes to black people, of which you are, okay? Medgar Evers held on to his identity. Those that went before us to fight for the justices and the freedoms and the equalities, they never lost their identity of who they were as an individual. They held on to that, okay? And it's sad that you have one of the highest positions in the land at the Supreme Court and you've lost your identity.
You sold out.
Yeah, shame. Shame on you.
Sell out.
So now we're going to get to our Medgar Evers quotes. We have three quotes here. I had to see it to read it. 3 quotes here that says, number 1, you can kill a man, but you can't kill an idea. Okay. Number 2, Medgar Evers says, quote, I'm looking to be shot anytime I step out of my car. He said, if I die, it will be in good cause. I've been fighting for America just as much as the soldiers in Vietnam. Wow. And number 3, he said, quote, he believed in his country. It now remains to be seen if his country believes in him. Okay, so those are our 3 quotes from Medgar Evers.
So, lastly, 3 things to remember. If God puts you to it, he will bring you through it.
Yes, he will.
If God puts you to it, it will bring you through it. The Bible says he'll never put any more upon you than you can bear. So if God puts it on you, if God gives you the vision, then God will help you to go through it. When standing for change, be persistent, patient, and prayerful.
Yes.
And that's what he had to do, even and even when he was threatened and his family was threatened, he was persistent. He was patient, waiting for the change, and was prayerful for God to protect him and watch over him. And when God saw that his time and work was done, he allowed to happen what happened. And 3, remind yourself that this fight is not only personal, but necessary for future generations. And don't fall into a sinkhole of despair. Take a minute to
take a breath
and get back to work.
Yes.
Okay.
Medgar Evers, freedom fighter. Thank you, Medgar Evers.
So we thank y'all for joining us tonight, and we ask that you join us next week at 6:30 here in the Face of Truth. On faith, if you like what you hear tonight, hit that like and subscribe button for us.
And share.
Don't forget on Facebook, True Apostolic Holiness Church, Sunday morning, 11:30, we have Sunday morning service. Also Mother's Day, so we look forward to that, Lord willing. And then Tuesday night at 7 p.m. is our On Fire for Jesus Bible study. We're in Psalms division number 4 and 5. So join us then, and then next Thursday at 6:30 for In the Face of Truth with Will and Sharr. So for Sharon and William, we're saying thank you for joining us. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you, Lord willing, on Sunday.
And get out and vote blue. Come the midterms, y'all. Get organized. Let's go.